It was 2:38 a.m. on a Sunday. The neighborhood of Pine Grove Heights in Atlanta, Georgia, was asleep. Gated homes, security systems, peaceful silence. But inside one mansion at the end of Cypress Bend Road, something had just shattered that calm. A 911 call came in from a housekeeper named Letitia Monroe. Her voice, breathless, shaky. She wasn't screaming. She was whispering. "There's blood on the carpet. I think he's dead." Police arrived 6 minutes later. Lights still on. Front door unlocked. They stepped into a marble foyer lit by crystal chandeliers and the dim glow of a fireplace. Everything looked untouched. Perfect. Except for one thing. In the middle of the study, lying face up on a crushed velvet armchair, was 68-year-old Roosevelt Maddox. 2 gunshot wounds. One to the chest. One clean through the temple. No signs of forced entry. Nothing stolen. No broken glass. And standing nearby, wrapped in a wine-colored silk robe, her cheeks streaked with tears, was his 20-year-old wife, Anaya Lennox. She looked young, fragile, like a porcelain doll cracked by shock. But investigators would soon learn. Those tears might have been rehearsed. And what unraveled over the next 4 months would leave an entire city shaken. Because behind the murder of this millionaire mogul wasn't a stranger, but love, money, jealousy, and betrayal. Deep betrayal. A betrayal that wore red lipstick, silk robes, and a designer ring bought 3 weeks before his death. This isn't a story about an angry intruder or a robbery gone wrong. It's the story of a 20-year-old model who played the role of grieving widow while hiding a secret lover, a crypto wallet, and a contract that turned deadly. This is the case of Roosevelt and Anaya Maddox, and how love, when weaponized, becomes lethal. Tone. Roosevelt Eugene Maddox was a legend in Atlanta's business scene. Born March 6, 1955, in Decatur, Georgia, raised by a single mother, worked 2 jobs by age 14. Dropped out of high school, later earned his GED from the county jail. By 1983, Roosevelt was pushing mop buckets through warehouses on the city's South End. By 1999, he owned those warehouses. And by 2010, he had built one of the most feared private security empires in Georgia. Maddox Strategic Services. Clients included mayors, rappers, and a few people the IRS couldn't reach. His men were called ghost units. No trace, no second chances, and no loose ends. In the industry, Roosevelt had a nickname, the Ghost Maker. He never raised his voice, never bragged. But when he walked into a room, people straightened their backs. He wore nothing but pressed suits and steel watches. He was a self-made man, with scars no one asked about. But even ghosts get lonely. In 2017, Roosevelt's wife of 31 years, Valencia Maddox, died of a stroke. He disappeared for almost a year. No public appearances, no interviews, and then suddenly he was back. But different. He was quieter, more charitable. Started showing up at fundraisers and speaking on youth mentorship panels. That's when people noticed something else. He started bringing someone with him. It began in the spring of 2022. At a gala for criminal justice reform hosted at the Avalon Grand Hotel, Roosevelt walked in holding hands with a girl less than a third his age. She was tall, soft-spoken, brown skin glowing under the chandeliers. Some thought she was his assistant. Others whispered, "Is that his niece?" But it wasn't. Her name was Anaya Lennox. Over the next few months, they were seen at art museums, jazz nights, and even at a charity golf tournament where Anaya wore a $4,000 Gucci jumpsuit. Despite never having touched a golf club in her life, by August, gossip blogs had caught on. By September, it was official. And on December 18, 2022, Roosevelt Maddox, 67, married 20-year-old Anaya Lennox in a private courthouse ceremony with only 12 people in attendance. None of them were Roosevelt's 2 sons. To outsiders, it looked like love. A billionaire widower finding joy in his twilight years. A beautiful model escaping her past. But Roosevelt's employees noticed things. Security camera schedules were suddenly changed. Anaya ordered certain wings of the house to be kept unmonitored. She had her own password to the home's surveillance system. She started driving Roosevelt's cars alone. And most alarming of all, she fired Roosevelt's longtime house manager, Carl Watson, without his approval. She said Carl made her feel uncomfortable. Carl later told police she wasn't afraid of him. She was in charge. It was like she was running rehearsals. By January 2023, just 1 month into the marriage, Roosevelt was writing up a new will. It left everything, the house, the cars, the company, and the offshore accounts, to Anaya. He told his lawyer, "She's all I got left. I want her safe." That will would never be filed. And in just 6 weeks, Roosevelt would be dead. Anaya Lennox was born October 4, 2003, in Cleveland, Ohio. Her mother, Tashawn Lennox, struggled with addiction. Her father was never named on the birth certificate. By age 9, Anaya was in and out of foster care. By 11, she was living with her aunt, Dolores Pratt, a part-time hairdresser on East 79th Street. Life wasn't soft. It was survival. Food stamps, eviction notices, public school uniforms one size too small. But Anaya stood out, not just for her beauty, but for her control. Even in middle school, she learned how to play people. Teachers, classmates, social workers. She gave them the version of herself they needed to see. At 15, she started uploading photos to Instagram. Basic poses, cute captions. By 17, she had 40,000 followers and a DM from a modeling scout in Atlanta. That DM changed everything. She moved to Georgia with just a suitcase and $60 in cash. She slept on a friend's couch for 3 weeks before finally booking her first shoot. A hair braiding campaign in Stone Mountain. She looked good. Too good. Within a year, she'd gone viral twice. First for her Fashion Week audition tape, then again when she posted a video crying after being played by a rapper who used her for clout. That video? Over 2.3 million views. But while social media painted her as a heartbroken dreamer, privately, Anaya was flipping her pain into power. Screenshots showed her setting traps, sending screenshots of fake pregnancies, guilt-tripping men into buying her phones, flights, and designer shoes. Everything was a transaction. She once told a friend, "I'm done loving men who don't have life insurance." So when Roosevelt Maddox entered her orbit at a gala, he wasn't just an old man with a soft heart. He was a retirement plan. The timeline is cold. March 2022, they meet. April, he buys her a condo in Buckhead. May, she posts a photo with the caption, "Found my peace." June, she files an LLC. Lennox Visuals. No business activity. Just a name. By September, she had access to his schedule, passwords, and home. And still, every other weekend, she snuck out and met someone else. His name was Tarek Styles. Roosevelt Maddox's sons knew something wasn't right. They didn't come to the wedding. They didn't answer his calls. And they didn't hide their opinion of Anaya Lennox. To them, she wasn't a wife. She was a thief with a ring. Jalen Maddox, Roosevelt's youngest, told investigators, she changed his whole routine. He stopped coming to board meetings. He missed his quarterly review. That never happened before. Jalen had built a tech startup on his own. But Roosevelt always said Anaya was the future. He called her legacy. That word used to be ours, Jalen said. The house staff noticed things too. Anaya started locking the home office. She had full access to Roosevelt's schedule, something even his executive assistant didn't have. She changed the housekeeper's work hours to avoid crossing paths. And then came the night Roosevelt's lawyer, Marcus DeWitt, got a text at 11:13 p.m. It read, "Let's talk will adjustments. I want her protected." They spoke briefly the next morning. Marcus said Roosevelt seemed anxious. "I just want her okay if anything ever happens to me," he said. That was February 28, 2023, 13 days before his murder. In those 13 days, surveillance logs show Anaya making 4 unannounced trips off the property between midnight and 3 a.m. She claimed she was going to clear her head. But one of those nights, she wasn't alone. March 4, 2023. Anaya was spotted at a Waffle House in Decatur, wearing a hoodie, no makeup, sitting across from a man in a red cap. That man would later be identified as Tarek Styles. Tarek wasn't just a rebound. He was the kind of man Roosevelt would have never allowed near his wife. 25 years old. No steady job. One pending charge for aggravated assault that was later dropped. But he had charm. He had swagger. And more than anything, he had her attention. Digital forensics would later show that from February 10th to March 10th, Anaya called Tarek 87 times. She wired him $12,000 in 3 transactions using Cash App under fake business names. Descriptions read: studio equipment, visual consultation, gear upgrades. But Tarek didn't own any equipment. He didn't have a studio. He was living in a friend's basement in Edgewood. According to investigators, it was around this time, mid to late February, that the first plan started forming. Roosevelt had heart problems. He was on cholesterol medication. Anaya Googled, how to trigger heart attack in sleep. How long does it take for digitalis to work? Painless ways to kill without getting caught. She never used poison. She decided to use a person instead. The last confirmed public sighting of Roosevelt was March 10th. A fundraiser for inner-city education. He looked frail. He didn't speak much. He sat the whole time. But Anaya, she was glowing. She wore a red dress with a slit up to the thigh. She made a toast, thanking the crowd for believing in second chances and new chapters. 2 days later, he was dead. Tarek Elijah Styles was 25 years old. Born and raised in East Point, Georgia. Dropped out of high school at 17. 2 arrests before age 21. Possession with intent to distribute, and battery.
No convictions.
His social media portrayed him differently. Instagram full of studio lights, money spreads, and rented cars. His bio read, CEO of my dreams. Watch me build. But the only thing Tarek was building was a fantasy. He met Anaya in late 2021 at a pop-up event hosted by a local influencer. She was 19. He was 23. Friends say they flirted all night but didn't exchange numbers until a week later. Their relationship was intense. Off and on. Lots of pictures. Lots of breakups. By the time she met Roosevelt, Tarek was out of her life. Or so it seemed. Phone records show they were back in contact by January 2023, just weeks after Anaya married Roosevelt. They didn't follow each other publicly. They used nicknames in their phones. He saved her as L.A., short for Lennox Anaya. She saved him as Johnny West. They communicated through Instagram voice notes, deleted texts, and short encrypted calls. A court-authorized digital forensics report recovered over 230 messages that had been deleted but recoverable. In one of those messages, dated February 18th, Tarek wrote, "We gon' get this right. All of it. Just trust me." She replied, "You think I don't? I can't lose him too." What did that mean? Investigators believed it referred to a miscarriage Anaya had the year prior, allegedly by Tarek. She never confirmed it. But in one recovered message, she told him, "I lost the baby and still kept your secret. Don't forget that." Whatever that secret was, it bound them. Tarek didn't have a job. He didn't have savings. But on February 22nd, he paid $4,300 cash for a used Dodge Charger. He told the dealer he made the money through royalty checks. But the dealer, later interviewed, said, "Man had no idea what VIN numbers meant. That car was paid in stripper bills." 2 days later, on February 24th, he bought a prepaid burner phone and a pair of tactical gloves from a convenience store on Glenwood. He was building a kit. Investigators reconstructed his timeline using GPS pings, traffic cams, and digital trail. March 11th, 2023, 1:13 a.m. Tarek's burner phone pinged 1 mile away from Roosevelt's home. 1:47 a.m. Gas station footage shows him buying gloves, gum, and a red Gatorade. 2:18 a.m. His phone location was lost. 10 minutes later, Roosevelt was shot. Anaya told police she had been sleeping, that she woke up to a sound, ran into the study, and found him bleeding. But she made the 911 call 7 minutes after the estimated time of death. And there were no signs of forced entry. Roosevelt's private study had a custom lock. Only 2 people had keys, Roosevelt and Anaya, and only one set was recovered. March 12, 2023. The last night Roosevelt Maddox would ever see. 10:12 p.m. Security logs show Roosevelt entering his private study. He had just finished a late dinner. His final text message was sent to his lawyer. Let's sign the papers next week. Those papers? A transfer of 40% company ownership to Anaya. It was never signed. 11:17 p.m. Anaya is seen by the housekeeper pacing in the hallway, barefoot, talking on her phone. She tells Letitia, the housekeeper, I can't sleep. My chest feels tight. I might take something. 11:52 p.m. House camera at the east hallway shows Anaya entering the kitchen. She pours a glass of wine. Sits. Waits. She's texting someone. Her screen glows, but the angle makes it unreadable. 1:05 a.m. Tarek Styles' burner phone pings less than 2 miles from the Maddox estate. CCTV from a nearby Chevron station confirms it's him. He's wearing a black hoodie, gloves, and a baseball cap. He buys gum, a red Gatorade, and a pack of baby wipes. 2:10 a.m. The gate camera malfunctions. Feed cuts out for 18 minutes, a rare blackout. The system logs a remote override. Someone manually disabled the recording from the control panel inside the house. The control panel was in Anaya's closet. 2:22 a.m. A shot is heard by a neighbor walking their dog. He later tells police, I thought it was fireworks. Then another one. But it was too quiet after.
No alarm triggered.
No broken glass. Roosevelt Maddox never moved from the velvet chair where he'd been watching an old James Baldwin documentary. He was shot once in the chest, and once directly through the right temple. 2:29 a.m. Anaya reactivates the camera feed. Walks down the hallway, hair down, slippers on. She opens the study door, and for the next 7 minutes, she doesn't call for help. She doesn't scream. She just stands there, looking. 2:38 a.m. The 911 call is made. In it, she's breathless. Whispers, I think he's been shot. She doesn't mention another person. She doesn't mention a struggle. She never tries CPR. When officers arrive, they find her sitting at the bottom of the staircase, robe tied, wine glass next to her, untouched. She says, I don't know who did this. He was everything I had. But a full autopsy would tell another story. Gunshot wounds showed no signs of close-range residue, meaning the shooter stood at least 3 feet away across the room. Security feed from outside the study showed no one entering or leaving between 2 o'clock and 2:40 a.m. Except one person, Anaya Lennox. After Roosevelt Maddox was declared dead at 3:17 a.m., the Atlanta Police Homicide Unit began its formal investigation. They found no broken windows, no forced doors, no signs of robbery. Nothing was stolen, but something was missing. Roosevelt's personal safe, the one hidden behind a framed portrait in his office closet. It had held 2 watches, $20,000 cash, and a Glock .43 pistol, the gun that would later be used to kill him. Detectives reviewed gate logs, keycard access, and internal motion sensors. The house was locked down the entire night. Only one person had access codes to all doors, cameras, and override systems, Anaya Lennox. But suspicion is not evidence. The case needed a break, and it came 2 days later from an unlikely place. March 14, 2023. Officers tracked a Cash App account used to send a $4,500 transfer labeled New Mix and Master. The recipient, Tarek Styles. He claimed it was for music services, but his digital records showed no active studio sessions, no equipment rentals, and no proof of audio files delivered. What he did have was a burner phone. And on that phone, despite multiple deletion attempts, were location pings that placed him less than 1.5 miles from the Maddox residence exactly 28 minutes before the murder. Even worse, DNA under Roosevelt's fingernails revealed a partial match to someone else. A man named Deshaun Tyrese White, Tarek's cousin. Age 31, three-time felon. Most recent release, January 2023. Deshaun was arrested on March 16 in Lithonia, Georgia. His car was impounded. Inside the trunk, investigators found a duffel bag containing $7,200 in mixed bills, a burner phone linked to Anaya's second Cash App alias, and the Glock .43 ballistics confirmed it as the murder weapon. At first, Deshaun said nothing, but after 19 hours in custody, he gave in. What he said changed everything. She set it up, said he was old, said he was already dying anyway. All she needed was a clean hit. She paid me half up front and the rest after he was gone. Deshaun claimed he was brought in only for the trigger. Anaya planned it. Tarek negotiated it. He said, "Make it quick."
No mes.
In and out. She'll open the back hallway. Deshaun entered through the kitchen, used Roosevelt's own gun, and left through the patio. He was paid through a combination of cash, crypto, and a stolen check cashed under a fake business name, Velvet Syndicate LLC. That check was signed, investigators later confirmed, by Anaya Lennox. With Deshaun White's confession in hand, police turned their full attention to the money trail. It wasn't just a murder for hire, it was a financial assassination. March 18, 2023. A search warrant was executed on Anaya Lennox's devices. Inside her iPhone 14 Pro Max, forensic techs found 2 private crypto wallets, 3 Cash App aliases, a password-protected spreadsheet titled My Peace Plan. That spreadsheet contained payout instructions. Names were coded as initials, TS $12,000.
DW $8,5.
LA. Hold funds until cleared. The document had been updated the morning after Roosevelt was killed. Investigators discovered 4 wire transfers, all made from Roosevelt's secondary account between February 20th and March 10th. Each one landed in offshore wallets connected to fake LLCs. 3 were traced back to Tarek's crypto wallet. 1 went to an account in Belize never recovered. But the biggest shock came when they opened Roosevelt's revised will, dated March 1, 2023. In it, Roosevelt left full ownership of Maddox Strategic Services to Anaya, the family estate and remaining cash reserves to Anaya. His 2 sons, nothing. The signature was shaky. The notary, when contacted, denied ever signing that document. Forgery experts later confirmed it wasn't Roosevelt's hand. It was traced, imitated, and Anaya's fingerprint was found on the underside of the last page. By March 22nd, Roosevelt's estate lawyer Marcus DeWitt froze all assets. The Maddox empire collapsed in real time. Employees were let go. Business partners pulled contracts. Federal auditors stepped in. They found $1.6 million in unauthorized expenditures, some as old as January. Anaya had used the company's private funds to purchase $60,000 worth of crypto, pay off her aunt's home in Cleveland, lease a 2023 black Porsche Taycan, and wire $75,000 to a holding company called Dia Solutions, created by Tarek Styles just 2 weeks before the murder. When questioned by police, Anaya simply said, "Everything I did was with love." But the evidence told a colder truth. One of Roosevelt's final voice memos, recorded on March 8th and never sent, said, "If something happens to me, check the crypto. It's hers now. I don't trust her no more." The old man knew. He didn't know how it would happen, but he felt it coming. And 4 days later, it did. October 12, 2023. Fulton County Superior Court. The People versus Anaya Lennox. Charges: first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, forgery, a money laundering. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, bloggers, 3 Netflix producers were seen in the back row. In the front, Roosevelt's sons sat stone-faced. Anaya walked in wearing a navy blue suit. No makeup, hair pinned, no jewelry. The glam was gone. Her defense? Abuse. Her lawyers claimed Roosevelt was controlling, that she feared for her life. They painted a picture of a man who monitored her calls, tracked her movements, denied her access to the outside world. But they had no police reports, no bruises, no witnesses, just her word. The prosecution came armed with receipts, bank statements, security footage, wire transfers, fake business entities, Deshaun White's full-taped confession. And then they played the texts, a string of recovered messages from Anaya to Tarek. He goes to sleep at 10:30. Cameras off. It's now or never. He's too old to see it coming. I want you. Only you. The courtroom went silent. Tarek Styles took the stand next. He had taken a plea deal. 12 years in exchange for testimony. He sat wearing glasses and a loose gray prison shirt. He cried. He told the court, I didn't think it was real. I thought she was venting. Then the money came. And I knew. He admitted to handling payments, to buying the burner phones, to asking Deshaun to take care of it. Then came the housekeeper, Letitia Monroe. She told the jury. That night, she didn't look scared. She looked like she was performing, like she'd been practicing in front of a mirror. But the final blow came from a flash drive, recovered from Anaya's iCloud, buried in a hidden album. A video, dated March 6, 2023. It showed her in the master bathroom, holding her phone like a mirror, practicing her 911 call, word for word, tone, breathing, even a fake gasp at the end. The jurors looked away. The judge sat frozen. One of Roosevelt's sons walked out. By day 7 of the trial, Anaya Lennox's defense was crumbling. The 911 rehearsal video had changed everything. Any hope of reasonable doubt was gone. The prosecution dug deeper. They presented GPS metadata showing Anaya's phone near the patio door at 2:19 a.m., just 3 minutes before the first shot was fired. She had told investigators she was asleep in the master bedroom. The bedroom was on the other side of the house. Then came a neighbor's sworn statement. Denise Holloway, who lived across the street, testified. She asked me a strange question a few weeks before it happened. She said, if someone disappeared, like, permanently, could they still take their name off a house deed? Forensic accountant Cynthia Rollins was next. She presented a slideshow, bank transfers, shell corporations, Bitcoin wallets, a routing numbers traced to a crypto ATM 12 blocks from Tarek's apartment. Every cent led back to Anaya. And every transaction had a pattern, a build-up, then a trigger event, then a cleanup payment. The jury began to see it clearly. This wasn't spontaneous. It wasn't fear. It was a script, written, directed, and executed by Anaya Lennox. Then came a final witness the defense tried to block. A young woman named Maya Trent. She had known Anaya for years. They grew up together in Cleveland. She testified with a quiet voice, clutching her necklace the whole time. She told me once, the best way to be a widow is to make sure he loves you more than life. That way, he never sees it coming. No more questions. No more gasps. Even Anaya looked down. The defense rested. Closing arguments were brief. On November 5, 2023, the jury deliberated for 3 hours. They returned with a verdict. Guilty on all counts. The courtroom was quiet. Everyone stood as the judge entered. Anaya Lennox, now 21 years old, stood at the defense table. Expression blank. Hands folded.
No tears.
The jury foreman delivered the verdict. Guilty on all counts. Murder, conspiracy, fraud, forgery, money laundering. Tarek Styles had already been sentenced. 12 years in state prison with eligibility for parole after 7. Deshaun White, 28 years with no possibility of parole until year 20.
Anaya?
The prosecution asked for the maximum, and the judge, Honorable Renee Walters, delivered it. You used love as a weapon. You manipulated those who trusted you. and you orchestrated the death of a man who gave you everything. Anaya Lennox was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. She did not react. No breakdown. No apology. Her final statement? I just wanted to be free. Roosevelt's sons didn't speak to the press. They left the courthouse without looking back. The Maddox estate was liquidated. The private security company shut down. What was left of the inheritance went to a scholarship fund started in Valencia Maddox's name, Roosevelt's late wife. The mansion was sold. The car leases canceled. The artwork removed. Only the velvet armchair remained in storage, stained, tagged, and sealed as evidence. A chair that once held a man who thought he was building a second chance, only to be shot by the very person he believed had saved him. But this case wasn't just about murder. It was about a fantasy, the kind sold in whispers, DMs, and pillow talk. The kind that says, you can have it all. Just get rid of what's in the way. In the weeks following the trial, Roosevelt Maddox's story faded from the headlines, but the shadows he left behind did not. His estate, once worth over $30 million, was drained by legal fees, fraud claims, and a long list of contested assets. His company, Maddox Strategic Services, filed for bankruptcy just 51 days after Anaya's conviction. 300 employees lost their jobs. His name was removed from the city's Black Legacy Business Wall of Fame. No memorial, no plaque, just a legacy wiped clean. Anaya Lennox, once a rising star of Instagram, now lives in Metro State Women's Correctional Facility, Cell 3A. She works in the prison laundry room. She has no access to phones.
No modeling contracts. No likes. No followers.
Just silence. Her TikTok account remains online. Thousands of comments flood every post. Some say, you played the game and lost. Others, she's still a queen. She just trusted the wrong man. Even behind bars, she has a fan base. Because infamy sells. Tarek Styles was transferred to a lower security prison upstate. He now teaches GED classes. He told his parole officer, I wish I'd stayed broke. Deshaun White has refused all interviews. But the real question that still lingers is not how Roosevelt Maddox died. It's how he lived the last few months of his life. Was he in love? Or just lost? Was he suspicious? Or in denial? Had he seen the signs and ignored them? We'll never know. What we do know is this. Power doesn't always wear a suit. Sometimes it walks in heels, whispers in your ear, and makes you believe it loves you, until the moment you outlive your purpose. She was 20. He was 68. They said it was love. And maybe, for a moment, it was, but what followed was a blueprint for betrayal. Wrapped in silk, kissed with champagne, and signed with blood. Roosevelt Maddox survived poverty, violence, and decades in business. But in the end, he couldn't survive the woman he loved most. If the story made you question trust, loyalty, or what love can cost, don't scroll past it.
Comment below?
Could this have been prevented? Was Anaya a victim or a mastermind? Share this video with someone who needs to know. Sometimes the real killer doesn't hide in the dark. She smiles in your face. Subscribe for more stories that aren't just crimes, they're warnings. Because truth doesn't whisper. It waits until you're ready to see it.